Today we're going to look at one of the most legendary and mysterious artifacts in the entire history of video games. It's the Nintendo PlayStation Super NES CD-ROM prototype. And yes, you heard that right. This machine sold a few years ago for a staggering $360,000. And while that price alone makes headlines, the story behind this prototype is not only fascinating, it's just straight crazy. For years, the idea of a Nintendo and Sony crossover console was considered little more than a myth, a piece of video game lore. But then, in 2009, one of these long-lost machines surfaced, and the world got its first confirmed glimpse of what might have been. The dual-branding console is believed to be the last surviving example of around 200 prototypes built during the short-lived partnership between Nintendo and Sony. This was way back in the early 1990s. So what happened to all the others? Reportedly, they were destroyed. That makes this piece not just rare, but practically unique. So what exactly is it? Externally, it looks like a hybrid between a Super Nintendo Entertainment System and the Sony PlayStation we'd later come to know. It has a cartridge slot compatible with Super Nintendo and Super Famicom games, but it also houses a CD-ROM drive designed to play disc-based games and media, something Nintendo had never ventured into. When the prototype was found, the CD drive was not functioning, but it was later repaired by Benjamin Heckendorn, a well-known YouTube personality famous for console modifications. After the repair, the CD drive worked perfectly for audio CDs, even displaying track numbers on a tiny built-in LCD screen. That means you could play your own music CD while running a cartridge-based game at the same time, a pretty futuristic feature for 1992. The front of the console included 2 controller ports, a headphone jack, and even a dedicated volume dial. On the back, it had the usual AV out and S-video ports, but also a mysterious connection labeled simply Next. To this day, no one is entirely sure what the heck this port was intended for. And then there's the controller. At first glance, it looks like a standard Super Nintendo controller, but the branding tells a little different story. Instead of Nintendo, the front proudly says Sony PlayStation. The back still has the word Nintendo molded in the plastic, making it one of the most bizarre mashups in gaming history. It's like that Facebook page Cursed Controllers. Both the console and controller show signs of yellowing, much like older Super Nintendos. That's because they were made of ABS plastic, treated with bromine. This was a flame-retardant substance they used for durability. Over time, though, when bromine is exposed to ultraviolet light, it oxidizes and turns a nasty yellow. What's interesting here is that different parts of the shell yellowed at different times and rates, suggesting the plastic mix wasn't entirely consistent. Another reminder this was never a mass-produced product. Also included with the console was something called a debugging cart or a boot cart. It looks like a standard Super Famicom cartridge, but it has a handwritten label with the date October 6, 1992, or possibly June 10th, depending on how you want to read it. The cart was essential, though, because it allowed the CD-ROM portion of the system to function and to give access to its unique Super Disk operating system. The ownership history is also just as fascinating with this console. This particular prototype was once owned by Olaf Olofsson, the first president and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment. When Olaf moved on from Sony to work at Advanta Corporation in the late 90s, he apparently left the prototype behind. Years later, when Advanta went bankrupt, the console was boxed up with miscellaneous items from an office and sold off at auction. It wouldn't be until 2009 that the buyer realized exactly what they had, and it quickly became one of the most talked about finds in gaming history. To hold this piece in your hands is to literally hold the fork in the road of gaming history. If Nintendo and Sony's partnership had indeed succeeded, the industry as we know it might look completely different today. Instead, Nintendo went on with cartridges, and Sony developed the PlayStation brand into a global powerhouse on its own. So when Heritage Auctions put this prototype up for sale in 2020, it was no surprise that collectors, investors, and gaming historians from around the world would go to battle for it. The final hammer price? $360,000. This reflects not just its rarity, but that cultural significance. This isn't just a console, it's the last surviving artifact of a failed partnership that could have changed everything. And today it stands as one of the most iconic and important prototypes in the entire history of video games. Let me know what you think about the Nintendo PlayStation prototype in the comments, and let me know what just your favorite console is. I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.